This happened. They went to Ghana, Aburi. They agreed on program. But as a matter of fact, Ojukwu was more prepared. I'm not condemning Gowon, but Gowon, in my opinion, went to Aburi with the hope or best of intention that it would be a matter of reconciliation. He went, but he didn't take the large briefings that Ojukwu took. So when they went, they agreed in Aburi, but eventually what they agreed to turned out not to be acceptable to the majority of Nigerians. There was a complaint about that. So the result was that it was not implemented. And then the East was started to complain. Gradually, it went to a stage where, they say, a good settlement was reached in Ghana, but it was abandoned by Gowon and the federal government. So Ojukwu started to think, I think at that stage, or maybe before that, of the secession. Because the perception before that was that the coup was launched or staged by Igbo officers in the army with the intention of, at that time there was inter-ethnic concern over domination and so on. So it was seen as an attempt to install Igbo domination over the rest of the country.
We don't see a lot of Ofemano people where they cast everywhere for the whole news blogs to support the nonsense where General Gowon right, the jargon, a madman mentality way right. But them will be Ofemano people, they no go tell you that part of the story. They will not tell you that part of the story. Say for Aburi here, because of that particular meeting, 2 hours after that meeting, Kwame Nkrumah cursed Obafemi Awolowo because he was the person that leaked everything concerning that meeting, the proceedings of it, every protocol observed in that meeting, every agreement made. Awolowo leaked it to the British people. Kwame Nkrumah cursed him here in Aburi. I'm right here in Aburi. Kwame Nkrumah cursed him and told him that he will see the seat, but he will never rule. And it happened. So, but Gowon is alive now.
Welcome, sir. So many Ghanaians in Aburi are coming out to say that Gowon is just trying to rewrite history. That Gowon has lied. That Gowon is actually lying about so many things. That Gowon did not fulfill the agreement of Aburi Accord. So I'd like to ask, what could be the possible reasons why Gowon is lying? And is it actually true that Gowon is lying?
Thank you for having me. I will tell you that I'm not surprised that we are seeing this coming from people from Aburi. Of course, where the Aburi Accord took place. I'm not surprised in any way because personally, I know that Gowon has always misrepresented the facts of what transpired at Aburi. That is why we should listen to this man that spoke from Aburi. Let's listen to him as we come back to further this conversation. We are going back. So you have it right. The reason Gowon may be trying to mispresent the fact is not far-fetched. Because you have seen that the Nigeria he projected, the one Nigeria he said to keep Nigeria one is a task that must be done, is not working. It's not working because every aspect of Nigeria currently needs to be adjusted for Nigeria to see the light of the day. All the problems Aburi Accord sought to solve many years after the Civil War are still plaguing us as a people. Remember that a part of the Aburi Accord was that we are going to have a decentralized policing system, a decentralized military system. And unfortunately, one came from Abuja as Aburi back to Nigeria and denied everything. And today, look at insecurity in every part of the country. Today, Nigeria is talking about how to go about state police. Look at how many lives that have been lost. If not for the fact that Gowon reneged on Aburi Accord, all these lives we are losing would have been saved. That is why Gowon must do Nigerians the right thing to apologize for the misrepresentation of facts. But they Odibo made it clear before his demise that the word of confrontation never came from his mouth, that even came from Gowon. And to be quite honest with you, Odibo was not advocating for secession. Let's get it right. Odibo was advocating for a true federalism, where you manage your resources to a level to an extent, you place a level of tax to the center. And I think even as we speak, those who want Nigeria to work is the same thing that telling us today. The former leader of Afghanistan, the soldiers in peace, before his death, he stood on the ground that Nigeria must be restructured. And these are one of his ideas, one of his ideas, that let us have Nigeria restructured to the extent that regions should control their resources, place a level of tax to the center. I want to tell you that if you can go that route, that's the only thing that can save Nigeria apart from dividing Nigeria.
But what could be the possible reason why Gowon lied or misrepresented all of the Aburi Accord?
You know, at some point it was reported that Gowon did not comprehend everything that was being deliberated. At some point it was reported that he fell asleep. As such, he couldn't get a picture of everything that had transpired. But in all of this, I don't believe that it is because he decided to change his mind. Because he said that then he was the president, then that if you divide Nigeria, it's going to reduce his power. Not even that is part of the reason he has decided to throw this part that is not honorable. But the issue is, even many years after this party has followed, Nigeria have not been able to solve all our problems. So that's another time that the path is followed is a wrong path. And again, part of the reason he may have followed that on honorable path is because maybe when he came back, he would have gotten advice from some of his followers who have told him that we renege on this agreement. And it is unthinkable that somebody who is as mature as somebody to be the head of state will travel all the way to Aburi for a meeting. Deliberations went on. Resolutions were made. You came back to start reneging. It's not unfortunate. It's not unfortunate because for me, the other thing to do was to allow Aburi Accord to stand. So then we are battling with issue of insecurity occasioned by Fulani militias, occasioned by Fulani terrorists. If somebody was to tell you that sometime in 2009, when the whole issue of terrorism started, but then it was largely restricted to Gowon State, Borno State, and Sambisa Forest. If somebody was to tell someone that in sometime 2026, that Kwara State will become an epicenter of terrorism, I have to say nobody will believe it. That currently is having our very eyes. This is because Gowon and co renege on Aburi Accord. If they have allowed Aburi Accord to stand, Nigerian police system would have been restructured to the extent that regions would have been controlling their police.
But a lot of people are saying the Sokoto Caliphate was part of the reason why Gowon did that. That he is trying to please the Sokoto Caliphate. Could this actually be true?
It could be true that Gowon should be the one taking the blame. Because the one that took the decision. And what they had to tell you that to keep Nigeria one is a task that will be done. That he has kept Nigeria one. He has succeeded in keeping Nigeria one. Is Nigeria prospering? After fighting with half air resources of the country to keep Nigeria one. Is Nigeria better off for it? So it is irrespective of who gave him, who influenced him to take that decision. He should be the one that will take the blame. And another thing is the country better off for it? The answer is no. Are we not begging America, begging China, begging even Turkey to help us to fight terrorism? Have we not seen America boots on ground? Is this supposed to be a country with over 200 million people that is a sovereign nation cannot produce ourselves? It's quite unfortunate. And you see all these founding fathers of the country will still be telling you that Nigeria is working. How can Nigeria be working in a situation where, as we speak, some innocent citizens, children from Oyo State are in captivity? For no sin of jazz, for no crime of jazz, simply because the government could not protect the lives and property of the citizens. Not the constitution still the responsibility of protecting lives and property of the citizens on the shoulder of the president. Not the president who go by the name of the president and the commander of the armed forces. Not the governor in the state who go by the name of the governor and the chief executive officer of the state. Yes, non-state actors, like any terrorists, will come around the societies, take people into captivity, using the same Nigerian sovereignty, and cannot rescue them.
Now, a lot of people are saying Mazin Amdekano video has been flying around that he has projected this, he has saw this coming before now. So, and now he is in prison. Is it that the government is trying to hide something? Or was it that Mazin Amdekano have also seen this?
Amdekano's video, why he said all of this abound, is numerous on the social media space. Where he was warning Nigerians, warning the three major ethnic groups, the Igbos, the Hausas, the Yorubas, about the danger the Fulani possess, about the agenda of the Fulani, about their conquest agenda, about their tendency to subjugate, about how they are completely subjugated in the north, to the extent that the Hausa people have lost identity. You know, even on this, we started seeing some Hausa personalities who are now talking advocates, who are currently calling on the Igbos, the Yorubas, to come to help to save the Hausa for the hands of the Fulanis. This is what Amdekano was doing as a low voice. So I think that the government will be vindicated if you ask me. But currently, you can see that there are so many advocates who are now pushing for the liberation of the Hausa man. As we are talking about the liberation of the Hausa man, the subjugation is now going into other part of the country. Recently, we read about the burning down of a police station in our local government area of Ondo State by alleged Fulani terrorists. We only read about a monarch who resisted being adopted, how he was disallowed in palace in Ondo State. Because this unfortunate one that happened in Oyo State involving the adoption of school children and even the gruesome murder beheading of a mathematics teacher. Quite unfortunate, I must tell you. So if you are talking about Amdekano, he's somebody we go at high esteem. But this somebody who has become a phenomenon, this somebody who, of course, at the measure of his name, the world listens. I would not read recently how American Congress acknowledged American Secretary of State to come and engage the Ghanaian government to see to Amdekano's situation. Even in the recent past, we have seen you are working group on arbitrary detention. Telling Nigerian government, indicting Nigerian government, indicting Kenyan government in the way and manner they rendition Amdekano from Kenya to Nigeria. At the time, they asked the Nigerian government to release the man unconditionally. So the Nigerian government appealed the judgment of an appeal that set him free unconditionally, and the Supreme Court asked the court to go and start the case in Ogo afresh, where we have to go to the Amotosho-led of course, court, and that's where one person to where we are. Even after the Supreme Court gave judgment, are we not now seeing federal government filing a cross appeal against the judgment of the Supreme Court? This is an indication that federal government now disagree with some part of judgment given by Motocho. What does that tell you? That the Motocho in the side of Nigerian government was not right in all he did. Because I keep asking people at the level of the judgment, now the kind of kept asking questions. You have right to waive my right of final address. And I believe this is some part of the appeal that will be presented to the appellate court in the course of the appeal. Because we saw a court that deliberately refused to allow Namikalo give his final address to the court. Even if say he was defending himself, he had rights to address the court, and that was waived. You could hear the judge telling him, go on appeal. And you have what Jonathan said recently, that even in Nigeria currently, that you have a situation where those in government will be doing the wrong thing that will tell you to go to court. Where it drop from an adage, foreign adage, that if you have a situation where somebody is referring you to court, you know that your father is the judge. I think that's the case of Nigeria.
There is this fear that Mazin Nnamdi Kanu from the position of the federal government are supposed to be sentenced, or the federal government position is that Mazin Nnamdi Kanu should be sentenced to death. What does that actually mean? What are they? And you are saying again that they are trying to blame on Motocho and another. How do we now balance this issue?
I will tell you that is speculative. In the media space, that is speculative. But what is currently very much asserting is that federal government strongly disagree with some aspects of Motocho judgment. Because when it says you file cross of appeal, what it means is that even if the judgment went in your favor ab initio, what you're saying is that I am not in agreement with some of your judgments. So the most celebrated we are not saying federal government to say no, we do not totally agree with you.
Are you not sensing international pressure on that decision by the federal government and trying to say that they do not actually agree? Are you not saying, given the recent statement by the US Congress?
It's a possibility. Nnamdi Kanu is not a straight face when it talk about international arena. So it's a possibility. Do you not forget that even in the course of this whole issue of Fulani terrorism and all of this, that is a situation where international pressure source of the Jackson Bay released. So it's not out of it's not something you rule out. It's a possibility.
Okay, finally, let us go back to just round up in just a minute. Yes, we saw the documentary by the BBC. A lot of people has condemned it and said that it was not the true story of what actually happened. That how can a foreigner, a stranger, tell the Biafran story? We saw also Gowon tactically publishing a book in that regard. Some northern leaders have said, Gowon need to come out and say the truth. From all this ramification, what message is Gowon trying to pass to the international community, to the British government, and of course to Nigerians on what actually transpired by coming up with BBC report, a documentary on that, and of course the same month that Biafra was declared, the same month the world actually published the book. What is this whole thing all about?
The one having presided over a nation that refused to develop, a nation that refused to strive, and of course currently he's battling with whether to apologize to Nigerians or to maintain his position. Because this is a mad ability who told the whole world to keep Nigeria at one is a task that can't be done. We have not succeeded in keeping Nigeria at one. Currently, Nigeria is not working. All the problems that Aburi seek to solve is still plaguing us. So I think this is a man who is battling with his conscience. And that is the reason he's still running from pillar to post. For those who may be saying that, why should you go to international arena to get, of course, support arguments? You will agree with me that Aburi is not in Nigerian soil. So it was in international arena they went for that celebration. So people who stay or who reside in that place come out to emphasize what actually transpired. I think it's deep credibility to, of course, Odubu's position before it's damaged. But what Odubu has said in the past, this information that's coming from Aburi just came to confirm that Odubu was right in his position. That is the truth. Thank you very much.
Thank you.